Why does your anxiety increase when you get tired? So the reason being is, imagine this is the surface of our emotions. All of our triggers sit down here, right? So normally when we're well rested, our triggers sit down here. So our button gets pushed and it hits the trigger and it pulls the trigger up to the surface and we feel the emotion. That's how I imagine it happens, right? But when we're tired, the triggers sit just below the surface. It's like we feel raw, right? So we're so much easily triggered. And also, if you kind of imagine that that's the whole emotion, so from that distance there to down there is the whole emotion, right? When it sits closer to the surface, it's already kind of coming out. It's not going to take much to activate it or trigger it. And so when it comes out, we feel it full force. It's like, say that's the bottom of the emotion, it kind of comes all the way up to the surface. That's how I imagine it happens. So yeah, being tired can bring all of your triggers to the surface. You'll be much more sensitive to all your triggers. You may feel all your negative emotions more intensely. So how do we combat that? Be well rested and practice using my resilience techniques to switch off the triggers and switch off the negative emotions, which will keep your emotions down at baseline. When the buttons get pushed consistently, it builds up. Right, it builds up, and creates what I call excessive emotion, right? So there's a normal amount of emotion, and then there's, so say that's normal, then there's like the excessive amount. And it's that part there that the resilience techniques can switch off, because we still need emotions. We still, like, anxiety can play a positive role in our life as well. It can tell us if we're going somewhere and we feel anxious, the anxiety could be telling us not to go. If we're in a certain place or a situation, we're getting anxiety, it could be telling us to leave. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's the baseline. That's the part we want, because we can take the message from that. But anything above that, we need to release using the resilience techniques. So to recap, when we're tired, the emotions sit closer to the surface. So we're more easily triggered, we're more sensitive. And because they're already closer to the surface, we're going to feel the emotion to the full force when we're tired. That's how I imagine it happens, guys. Hope that helps.